Good afternoon, all. Good afternoon. Another one for the man them by the man them. Haven't done them for a while. I just happened to be watching a clip online, and it was on the Breakfast Club, and it was about a relationship that had broken up. They had been together for what 15 years, something like that, and the guy had done his interview previously, and he said that it wasn't fun for him no more. Um, so they kind of parted ways amicably. So there wasn't any kind of major drama. But what was interesting to me is that the suggestion was that whilst his partner had done her masters and she started to do her own businesses, which he had kind of encouraged as well, and he supported her doing that. Suggestion was that maybe he felt like she didn't need him anymore. So I thought that's quite an interesting topic. They've been together for a long, long time, and he was supporting her, she was supporting him. Um, did it did it get to a point where he doesn't feel like he was needed by her anymore? So that's interesting. I think that that can depend on the actual type of person that you are as a man. Uh, in a relationship, if you're if you start with somebody and you go on a long journey with them, but then it gets to a point where you don't feel like you're needed anymore, does it mean that that's the only faction that was in the relationship that was actually working in the first place? Does it mean that that's the only way that they get, maybe that's their love language, like to feel wanted, to feel needed? Um, that's yeah. I think that that's a kind of interesting thing. I think every man wants to feel needed to some degree in a relationship. But does it mean that come down the line, if there's a situation where your partner, they do something, or they create an amazing business, or something amazing happens, and they now suddenly maybe now the breadwinner, or they might be suddenly not at home as much, or they might not be as available as much. Like, how would you deal with that as a man? Like, that's an interesting thing. I think one way is obviously ensure that from the get go you have your own thing going on. So that means you're not reliant on um, feeling needed or wanted. So that means you have to have your own thing kind of going on at the same place. It doesn't mean that it might not impact you. Like, you'll still be like, rah, like I'm not really. And in that example on the show I was watching, um, so it became for him. It became not as exciting anymore. Like, oh yeah, I do this for my partner, or I help with it. I take care of the bills, or what I mean, I do this or I do that. Where it's like now that's actually changed, isn't it? Like, so it's not challenging for him anymore. So does that mean that if 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 you're the kind of person that wants to feel needed or wanted in the relationship, if you take that away, does that mean that the relationship will crumble? Because that could happen to that. That means that there's going to be tons and tons of relationships that's just going to crumble if we don't actually plan in advance or think in advance what we can do to ensure that if it does come to that, if we feel needed now, and if it does come to that, like, what's our contingency plan? Is there something else that we're relying on? If it's obviously something like, I don't know, love or affection, or that's a different kettle of fish, I think. But to feel needed, I think, even so, I think every man still wants to feel needed or wanted, or that kind of thing in a relationship. So I don't know how that you could actually continue with that, but that is something to kind of bear in mind when you do get in a relationship. At the beginning, you may feel like, yeah, okay, yeah, I'm kind of good with this. I'm in charge. I'm larger in charge. I take care of this. I take care of that, or whatever, whatever. And maybe down the line that might change, or it might be the other way around. But yeah, an interesting thing to do in terms of dealing with that. That could be, for example, starting your own business. It could be, going back to education yourself. It could be just being creative, and continue to do online development, online learning, self development, so that way you never stop growing yourself. Um, but if you don't do things like that, then if you get into a rut in a relationship and you feel like, okay, I'm no longer needed or feel needed in this relationship, I guess that's when people maybe start to kind of drift, or they will go where they feel that they're needed, or they feel like they're desired or wanted, or do you know what I mean? That kind of thing. So you kind of, it's like a kind of ego boost for the man them. Like, and we need, I think sometimes you need that kind of little boost. So I think maybe if we don't plan in advance and we get into that kind of rut, that's a potential thing that can happen. We'll be like, okay, well, I'm not really needed here. So, you might get a little bit of attention somewhere else, or that kind of thing. Um, so yeah, it's an interesting thought I was thinking, because I think that's a shame that if that happens. But I'm sure it's more than just the one thing that you have to kind of think about and be concerned with when dealing with relationships, that kind of thing. Um, but yeah, being needy as a man. Is it needy that you want to feel needed? Is it, you know, are you extra sensitive, or is it too much? Are you allowed as a man to feel like you want to be wanted and not feel like you're going to be emasculated for actually feeling that, or wanting to have that in a relationship? I don't think so. I don't think there's anything wrong with actually wanting that. Because that'll keep you coming back wanting more. I think it'll keep you coming back to the relationship thinking, yeah, I'm needed, so I'm responsible for this, and I have to make sure I take care of that, or that kind of thing. So, but then it's not to say that you're gonna stop your partner from progressing, or doing stuff. You just have to figure out your niche. What applies to you and what works for you. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. I was just rambling there anyway. Leave your comments, subscribe, and all of that good stuff. Deuces.